I'm going to talk to you today about SVGs and how to make them a little bit more inclusive, and also challenge you a little bit more to think about real users and their needs. It's kind of piggybacking unintentionally off of some of the other SVG talks that we just had today, Cassie and Michelle. So my name is Carie Fisher. I am the other Carie Fisher. I'm a senior accessibility trainer and developer at DQ, and I've been building websites professionally since the early 2000s. I never got into the MySpace era, but slightly right after that, but been on the web for a bit. But I utilize a lot of different frameworks. Big Gatsby fan right now, but I also like Andy's project as well. I've spent the majority of my professional career working as a front-end developer, and then I focus now more on UX and accessibility. And going back to grad school this fall to work on my human-computer interaction. So what Ramon was showing earlier is like right up my alley. So maybe next year I can come back and give a better presentation on that. So going back to SVGs, the primary focus for most people, and we saw it too, like in Cassie touched on some of the things about accessibility, but a lot of people don't really focus on that. They think about screen reader compliance, like does the SVG accurately describe, or is it hidden from the screen reader depending on its function? But that's only part of the issue that we have with SVGs, and it's only part of the solution. So we also need to consider other elements like color and contrast. So if I was rating and ranking the kind of the next steps to do here when it comes to color and contrast, the first thing I'd want you to do is make sure your SVG color palette is up to date with the WCAG color contrast ratio guidelines. And with the recent update to WCAG 2.1, makes it so all essential imagery must adhere to a contrast ratio of at least 3:1. So that includes your SVGs and your icons and other imagery that you have on your site, whereas before they were a little bit more exempt. There's a lot of great tools out there that can help you figure some of these things out, like the color contrast analyzer. And again, I can post some links later, but lots of tools. So you don't even have to worry about it too much. Just find one that works for you or your team. Second, there are a lot of great simulators and filters out there for color blindness available for you to use when you're designing or developing your SVGs. A couple of my favorites, again, No Copy Vision Simulator and Chrome Lens Extension. And then I'll show you like a small little one that I found in the Mac OS settings. It seems like a new one because I don't remember seeing that one before. But that being said, please keep in mind that simulators and filters are considered tools and may not represent an individual's true experience. It's just kind of something to help build empathy and kind of get an idea of what's going on. But beyond checking for color contrast ratios and using simulators and filters, you should also consider the increasingly popular and supported media query called Prefers Color Scheme. We've all seen that out and about in the wild, the dark theme, light theme. This allows a user to choose a theme version based on the website or app they're visiting by just changing an OS system setting. So by adding a dark and light mode, this gives your users more choice when it comes to the overall experience of your website or app. And this is a good thing because allowing your users to choose their own experience is always better than assuming you know what they want. In conjunction with color and contrast, how your SVG moves on the screen is another aspect when considering and designing and developing with inclusiveness in mind. So again, the WCAG is here for your to help you out. It's got some motion guidelines and they're pretty clear as well. We want non-essential moving, blinking, or scrolling information that starts automatically, lasts more than 5 seconds, and is part of other page elements. A user must be able to pause, stop, or hide. So since SVGs a lot of times have animations, you don't want to autoplay for more than 5 seconds, and you must create a way for your users to pause or stop the animation. One easy way to do this is to create like a JavaScript toggle button to play pause the animation. I've seen this if your SVG is super large or the main feature of your website, like think about a hero with a moving image in the background or animations that pop in and out as you scroll down a page. I've seen a play pause at the top of the screen that just basically stops everything. But if your SVGs are smaller in scale and related to user input, like we saw again on Cassie's presentation earlier, we had some fun forms, a sentence I never thought I'd say, But fun forms, right? You want to just make sure that that animation haps, uh, that there's an alternative option to code the animation to stop either at that 5 seconds, or in that case, you can turn it off in a different way versus playing it just in an infinite loop. In addition to the play pause option or creating a finite animation loop, you may also want to consider adding the prefers reduced motion media query to address the animation in your SVGs. So this is very similar to that light dark mode, but the prefers reduced motion media query checks to see the user settings for motion restrictions and then implements a visual experience based on their preference. So again, in the case of prefers reduced motion, a user can choose to minimize the amount of animation they see. All right, that's a lot of talk. So I was just going to go straight to the demo. I'm just going to show you the two media queries that I talked about here about making your animations a little bit more and your SVGs a little bit more inclusive. So again, I'm going to be using this code pen. I've got a link right there. If you want to like follow along or if you want to dig a bit deeper, since I don't have a super lot of time, I'm already getting really close to my 10 minutes here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. Pop this down. All right, so here is the code pen for this. This is the chameleon. And again, I had no idea that other people are making SVG chameleons. It's kind of a happy happenstance, I suppose. But this is the light dark mode and reduced motion SVG with Karma Chameleon. I'm not utilizing any JavaScript here. I'm doing all keyframe animations. And like we had already seen, there's so much that you can do with it that it doesn't, like I don't even know sometimes if you need JavaScript all the time. But inside of this code down here, you can kind of ignore the HTML for now. But there's a lot of different kind of pockets here where we have CSS animation for dark mode theme. As we go down, we have the prefers color scheme dark, right? And we scroll down, there's a lot of code. We have, wait for it, all right. CSS animation for default. So by default, I'm having the animation happen. And then we have a light mode theme. And a little bit down here, we have the animation changes for prefers reduced motion. So go ahead and check that out if you want. But what I'm going to show real quick is the settings to switch that. All right, so right now, Karma Chameleon, red, gold, and green for all you Boy George fans out there. I know you're out there. But we have the Karma Chameleon hanging out in space. We've got obviously some animations. But when I want to look at the light version, I just go into my settings on Mac. It's under general, right? And it's going to change to this more forest, right? Now all of a sudden Karma Chameleon is in the forest and we have a beautiful red butterfly kind of hanging out with her, which is great. But let's say that like I have a vestibular disorder or motion triggers my migraines, but I really want to have the same experience or a very similar experience. So I could go back to my settings and under accessibility and then display. And it used to be that we had only one sad little box to check, but now we have a lot more, like including these color filters that I kind of mentioned earlier. Again, this is a simulator. Don't write too much on it, but it kind of gives you an idea of what maybe this would look for this particular color disorder. But I'm interested right now in reduced motion. So I'm going to press that option. But play around with that. It's kind of interesting to see your site. This is one of those settings that you have to refresh to see the change, unfortunately. I'd like it to be just like the light dark mode where you just click it once and it works. But alas, we need to do a few more steps here. So on reduced motion, we see that the butterfly stopped. We see that Karma Chameleon has more of a gradient feature to her now. And so I can kind of have a similar but different experience based on my user settings. If I go back to the dark theme, just to show that it's on here as well, we've got the chameleon and we've got the rocket, again, looking pretty similar. I've used this also on my portfolio. You can see my prefers reduced motion. I'm just showing you this one real quick. Taking that one off. I normally have, it reminds me again, Cassie sprinkles, but I have bubbles. So if you want to learn more about accessible SVGs and inclusiveness beyond patterns, I wrote something here. You could see this and kind of play also with the site, because this site also has the reduced motion and the light dark kind of thing going on. All right. Thank you. That's it.